Stay still, you're bleeding. The young man dropped to his knees in the pouring rain, his dress shirt already soaked, his resume crumpled inside his backpack. A woman in an elegant rust-colored gown leaned against her red sports car, wincing in pain as blood ran down her leg. Pedestrians hurried past with umbrellas, sparing only brief glances, but he didn't hesitate for a second. He pressed his jacket against the wound to stop the bleeding, his voice calm despite his racing heartbeat. I need to keep pressure on it. Don't move. She tried to protest, her pride clashing with her pain. You don't have to do this. I'll be fine. But he shook his head firmly. No, you're not fine. You need help. The rain came down harder, soaking both of them as they crouched in the street. His watch beeped, reminding him of the time. His interview, the one chance he had at a job that could change his life, was slipping away with every second. Still, he didn't budge. He tightened his grip on the makeshift bandage, scanning her face for signs of shock. You're going to be okay, he reassured, his voice steady, though his thoughts screamed in conflict. He had rehearsed for weeks, polished his resume, borrowed his best friend's tie, and mapped the quickest route to the office. This was his moment to finally prove himself. But here he was, kneeling in the rain, choosing a stranger over his future. The woman studied him through the haze of pain. His clothes were modest, his shoes scuffed, yet his focus was entirely on her, not himself. No hesitation, no calculation, just instinct to serve. For a moment her breath caught, not from the wound, but from the rare sincerity she saw in his eyes. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, but he kept his attention fixed. You're losing too much blood. We'll wait for the ambulance together. She bit her lip, humbled by his conviction. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. He managed a half smile. I don't need to know you. You're hurt. That's enough. Minutes dragged like hours. His phone buzzed again, flashing the time of his long-awaited interview, but he silenced it without looking. The choice had been made. She mattered more. When paramedics finally arrived, he helped them lift her onto a stretcher, carefully explaining what he had done to slow the bleeding. One of the EMTs nodded approvingly. Good work. You may have saved her from worse. The young man exhaled, relief washing over him as he stepped back into the rain. He didn't even notice his resume slipping from his backpack, pages damp and ruined. His chance was gone, or so he thought. 15 minutes later, in a hospital waiting room, he sat slumped in a chair, dripping wet and exhausted. His tie hung loosely, his shoes squeaked with water. The weight of what he had lost sank heavily in his chest. That interview was his only chance out of the endless cycle of rejection letters and dead-end jobs. Now it was gone forever. The sound of heels clicking against the tile pulled him from his thoughts. He looked up and froze. The woman from the street, now cleaned and bandaged, walked toward him with quiet dignity. She had traded her soaked gown for a hospital robe, but her presence was commanding all the same. You, she said softly, her eyes locked onto his. You stayed with me. You missed something important, didn't you? He swallowed hard, ashamed to admit it. An interview. My only shot at a real job, but it doesn't matter. You needed help. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Do you know who I am? He shook his head, confused. She extended her hand. I'm the CEO of the company you were supposed to interview with today. The words hit him like thunder. His jaw slackened, his heart pounded in disbelief. She continued, her voice firm but gentle. I saw everything I needed to see out there on that street. Integrity, compassion, courage. Qualities no resume can capture. You don't need an interview. You already have the job. Tears pricked his eyes, but he blinked them back. For the first time in years, his sacrifices weren't in vain. His kindness had spoken louder than any degree or reference could. The CEO leaned closer, her voice dropping. Remember this moment. Success doesn't come from suits, resumes, or polished words. It comes from character, and you've proven yours in the rain. The young man stood slowly, still in shock, but now with a fire burning inside him. The hospital staff, who had overheard, began to clap softly. The applause grew louder, filling the sterile hallway with warmth. The woman extended her hand again, this time with authority. Welcome to the team. And in that moment, under the fluorescent lights of a hospital waiting room, a drenched, exhausted man realized that sometimes the path to your destiny doesn't come from chasing opportunity. It comes from stopping long enough to help someone else. Kindness is never wasted. What you give in sacrifice may return in ways you never imagined. Before we end this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know how you feel in the comments.